Think of a wound you've carried for a long time, an old ache, something so familiar you can't imagine it not being there. Perhaps it's a feeling that you're not enough or that you don't belong, whether that's in with your family, with friendship groups, a work situation, even in your own body or in your country. Now imagine that that wound is not a mistake. It is meant to be there. And it's not something to hide away from forever or to hide away from the world forever. This tender, vulnerable part of you, this wound, actually shows where you have a great gift. When you work to heal yourself with this struggle, you can then help others in a very unique way that can only be the way that you can help others. In astrology, Chiron is known as the wounded healer, a celestial body that is different, a maverick even. When it was discovered in 1977, they didn't know how to categorize it. Not an asteroid, not a comet. In fact, it was the first centaur body to be discovered. Chiron shows you where you hurt, and in doing so, it shows you where you can help your own hurt and help others. This month, June of 2026, Chiron is making a big move. It's been in the sign of Aries, fiery and combative, for the last 7 or 8 years, and it's about to move into the sign of Taurus, where it will be for the next 7 years or so. This is going to be bringing up issues with money, food, resources in the world, possessions, and we're going to be exploring those. And there'll be a special part of your chart where Taurus lies, and Chiron will be affecting you there with your healing work over the next 7 years. Hello everybody and welcome to this video. My name is Fiona of Sun and Moon Calendar. I've been studying astrology for 10 years and I loved sharing what's going on with the transits on a weekly basis so that you know what to navigate, what to expect in terms of the energies coming up, so you can be more ready to respond in the best way to challenging aspects and easier flowing aspects. We've got some lovely easy flowing ones coming up and some challenging ones as usual in the next week. I am in New Zealand, but this astrology is for the whole world, and I'm sitting at the moment on the last day of autumn on a long weekend. We've got a long weekend, Monday's off. I've got my jacket over my knees because it's chilly, and true to the weather patterns that we had all last summer, we have beautiful shiny weather, and then when we get a long weekend or a holiday, it rains. So I'm sorry for all those people who have gone away to try and have an outdoors time this weekend. Anyway, I'm cozy at home and actually it's not so shiny. It's better lighting for the video today. So in the video, I'm going to first of all go through the transits of the week one by one, and I'm actually going to go ahead and do the following week's transits as well. As I mentioned in a recent video, I've been working full-time lately and I'm finding it hard to get the videos out exactly every week. So I thought, okay, I'll give you 2 weeks of transits so that you're covered, and then maybe I will get it out in time. But the main focus of this video is Chiron. So I'm going to go more into depth about Chiron and what it's been like in the sign of Aries and what it's going to be like in Taurus, what Chiron means and how it affects you in your chart, okay? And where that Taurus part of your sky, because everyone does have Taurus, what that's going to be like having Chiron go through this. So there'll be a sign by sign breakdown about that. In general, I focus on the more traditional planets in terms of the Sun and Moon and up to Pluto. I don't look so much at asteroids or fixed stars. I like to feel the stronger energies and talk about them. They're the ones I really notice, but I definitely notice Chiron. And as I said, it's a centaur body, not actually an asteroid, even though it gets called that. You can jump ahead to any part of the video. If you don't want to follow and look at the transits of the week, you can jump ahead to the Chiron part and you can jump ahead to your sign as well. Okay, two more things to mention. There will be a quiz to ask you a question about one of the transits. If you're watching this on your desktop computer, then you'll be able to see a quiz come up. But I think if you're on your mobile device, like a phone, you won't see the quiz come up, but you can answer the quiz question in the comments anyway. And also, I will ask a question in the comments, and whoever answers that question will go in the draw to win a 5-minute astrology reading of your birth chart, looking at the transits that are going along in a future video. There were actually 2 people who I invited to share their birth details with me last time, so that I could do that for them, and then they didn't get back to me with their birth details. So maybe in a future video they might get back to me, but I don't want you to write your birth details in the comments because that's a privacy issue. Instead, I invite you to email me with those. So if I respond to one of your comments and invite you to email me, then please do, and let me know your date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth. I will not share those publicly. Let's get on with the video. So in the last video, I talked about the full moon in the sign of Sagittarius. Actually, that is tonight, the day that I'm recording. The full moon is going to be exact. And just to say, here is the Aotearoa sun and moon calendar. We are in the lunar month of Taurus, and now after the full moon, the moon will be waning, getting smaller in the sky, and we're looking at that week beginning the 1st of June. But as I said before, I will go on to the following week as well. Okay, so this week's transits. Let's have a look. Okay, not so many this week. We have Mercury moving into Cancer, the Sun sextile Saturn, Mercury square Neptune. So let's get through those. Okay, Mercury moving into the sign of Cancer. Mercury has been very happy recently, moving through its home sign of Gemini, all about communication and thinking and logical analysis, and lots of buzzing messages going around the community, connecting with neighborhoods. Mercury moving into the sign of Cancer is going to become more sensitive, so pick your words wisely. To imagine that the person you're talking to is quite vulnerable and sensitive, and just go gently with yourself as well. You might feel more emotional during this time. So what I said in the calendar about that: nurturing words, expressive emotions, and homemaking plans, because Cancer has to do with the home and Mercury is about planning. Okay. And now we'll look at the Sun sextile to Saturn. The Sun is about our vitality, our self-expression, our creativity, also leadership, how you shine in the world. And Saturn is the furthest planet away that is visible. So these two are at opposite ends in some ways. But in a sextile aspect, they are supportive of each other. And Saturn might help the Sun's creative expression to be better structured and ordered and prepared to work hard. So this will help us to work and to be responsible and sensible about how we want to express ourselves in creatively or in our leadership. So what I said in the calendar about that is enjoy working towards creative and leadership goals. Saturn likes things for the long term. So it's a good one to make long-term plans or to be structured and prepared to set up a system for working at something. Okay, and then we've got Mercury square to Neptune. On Wednesday, the 3rd of June, or Thursday, the 4th of June, Mercury, having newly moved into the sign of Cancer, will be square to Neptune, which is very slow moving, but newly moved into the sign of Aries. This could be bringing out some difficulty with communication, to do with perhaps confusion, deception even, entertaining illusions or delusions. On the other hand, it could encourage us to be quite imaginative and even to want to express otherworldly ideas and thoughts, but we can get carried away. So be prepared to encourage your inner skeptic to work here and to try and see through things that could be confusing or delusional. So, what I said in the calendar about that was fuzzy, confused thinking, and disillusionment. Okay. And I'm actually now going to go on to the following week. There weren't many, there aren't many transits for that week beginning the 1st of June. So now I'll talk about the transits of the week beginning Sunday the 7th or Monday the 8th of June. The last quarter moon happens then, so where the moon is waning and coming down. And then we have an absolutely lovely one on the 9th or 10th, Venus conjunct Jupiter, and on the same day, Mercury square Saturn, and then Venus moving into Leo. The last quarter moon happens every month where the moon appears as a half moon in the sky. This is a time to get on with our to-do list. The moon is waning. It's going to go down to new moon, and by then we should have finished some projects, some monthly projects or some monthly steps on some bigger projects. That square energy of the moon square the sun will give us a bit of angst and tension that will drive us to complete things on our to-do list. Okay. And then we'll go on to Venus conjunct Jupiter. This one we can expect to be absolutely lovely. In fact, if it wasn't for that Mercury square Saturn later on that day, I would say this would be just beautiful. Venus is a planet of beauty and pleasure, sensual delights, luxuries, comforts, and sweet connection with others. Jupiter is a planet of expansion and opportunity and right fairness, like goodness and generosity. Bring these two together, and you have the expansion of beauty and good times and pleasure and opportunities. It's also the beginning of a 1 year cycle. It'll take a year roughly until Venus is back with Jupiter again. So this happens once a year. What's different this time is that Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer, where this takes place. So they are both very happy. So it's a good time to start something really pleasurable and wonderful on this day. Pleasurable and good, and to do with perhaps beauty or the earth, something like that. And you might even just notice that some blessings come along, some blessed moments that feel very sweet and happy, and just enjoy that. Enjoy the ride. So I wrote in the calendar expansion of blessings in relationships, wealth, pleasure, and resources. And then on the same day, Mercury is square to Saturn. This comes later in the day, on Tuesday the 9th or Wednesday the 10th of June. So this is where we have some kind of restriction to communication and thinking. We need to be sensible. Oh, I've got the wrong image there. I've got a picture of Neptune, but it's actually Saturn. So Mercury and Saturn in a square aspect. So not so easy, a little bit of a downer on our communication and our thinking, and the need to be sensible and not to exaggerate. So try to avoid that. And then finally, on Friday the 12th or Saturday the 13th, Venus moves into the sign of Leo. So Venus has been merrily moving through the sign of Cancer, which is a sign of sensitivity, emotional depth, and family connections, a private sign. Leo is much more of an extrovert, out in the world, expressive and flamboyant, and Venus will be in there for the next month or so. Love generously, dress with flair. That is until 10th of July. Okay. So that is the end of the transits of those 2 weeks. So here is the quiz question. And as I said, on a desktop version, you can answer the quiz question. YouTube has it all set up as a quiz. If you are watching on your mobile phone, I don't think you'll see that. So you can answer in the comments. Which transit will help you to express yourself in a sensible and orderly way? A. Mercury in Cancer. B. Mars trine Pluto. C. Sun sextile Saturn. D. Mercury square Neptune. There's a quiz for you. I hope that you answer. And thank you to those people last week who answered the quiz question. And upcoming events in the middle of June. As I mentioned before, lots going on. On the 14th or 15th of June, we have the new moon in the sign of Gemini. On the 19th or 20th of June, Chiron moves into Taurus, and that is the subject of this video that I'm going to go into next. On the same day, Uranus is square the lunar nodes, and then we have the solstice with the sun moving into Cancer. Summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, winter solstice for us here in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about Chiron and Taurus. I have actually put my jacket on. I'm a little bit chilly, but I don't think I'm going to light the fire. Might change my mind later. This is what I said in the calendar about Chiron and Taurus. So, yes, and it's in the lunar month of Gemini. Work to heal feelings of material lack or low self-worth in the Taurus part of your chart. And Chiron will be in Taurus until September, and then again from next year until then 2033. Okay, what is Chiron? It is a centaur object, not an asteroid, not a comet. It comes from far beyond where Pluto is, and it has moved into the area between Saturn and Uranus. So it occupies that space between Saturn, the final of the visible planets, and Uranus, the first of the outer planets that we can't see and affect us in more abstract and psychological ways, and affect the collective in a bigger way because they are so slow moving. Chiron is somewhere in between the material, tangible of Earth and the otherworldly realms. So it's about our psychology and about this inner wound that we have, that we are born with. It was discovered in 1977, and it has a 50 to 51 year orbit, so it's pretty slow. And when you have your Chiron return, when Chiron comes back to the place where it was when you were born, it's about when you're 50 or 51. It's a big time of life. Like, we move into this older, wiser, more sensible part of life. Us women, we have menopause around about that time, and the men go through a change too. We settle down more, I believe, at that time. And I definitely felt through that time, 50, 51, I did settle, and I stopped chasing some things, and I just didn't mind being older anymore, whereas before I used to react to that. Anyway, some big changes happened to us at that time of life with that Chiron return. Chiron was named after the wise healer in Greek mythology, and there's an image there of the centaur. Okay, so to be human is to be vulnerable, and Chiron can help us to understand and accept our wounded self. There are 3 types of wounds that can show up with Chiron. When Chiron was born, and he was born as a centaur, half horse, his mother was so shocked to see this creature, what she saw as a monster, coming from her, that she rejected him. And so he therefore was kicked out and he was adopted. So he had all his life this sense of not belonging because he was adopted, even though he was cared for in his adoptive family. But his mother, he always had that wound of his mother not wanting him. So Chiron can show up where you feel like you don't belong. Chiron also sustained an injury later on in life in a battle. He had an injury to his foot or his leg, and so Chiron can show up injury in our lives. And it also can show up where we have illness. The injury that happened with Chiron was actually an arrow that was poisoned, and so this toxin affected him as well. So Chiron can also show where we have illness. And then there are 3 ways in which Chiron heals. 1, through active conscious work in healing. And Chiron studied medicine and surgery and was an expert in this field. Also, through empathy and walking in another's shoes, because it's quite hard to really be able to understand what somebody is experiencing unless we have experienced it ourselves. And because Chiron is in all of our charts, we all have Chiron, we all have some kind of wound or injury or illness that affects a big part of our life, whether that's emotional or physical. And if we didn't have this, I think we could be quite, arrogant, and it would be hard to understand the journeys and the emotional healing and the physical needs that others have. And then the 3rd way that Chiron can help us is it encourages us to accept our vulnerability, just to work on that acceptance. And that Chiron return at age 50, 51, there's a really big part of that. Like, I think we can take some big steps forward with accepting who we are and that we're maybe never going to be like this real hero person or achieve everything that we would have liked to achieve in our life, and that's okay. And also we have these vulnerabilities, these sensitivities, and it's okay. So here are some dates. Chiron entered Aries in 2018-2019, and then it's been there ever since, going through the sign of Aries. I'll talk about that in a moment. On the 19th or 20th of June this year, Chiron will move into the sign of Taurus. Then in September, Chiron will retrograde back into Aries for a final visit. And then April next year, it will re-enter Taurus and it will stay there until 2033 when it moves into Gemini. Here are some other dates. There are some big transits going on with Chiron. Last year, from October and finally in July this year, over that time, there are 3 squares with Jupiter. So that's a bit challenging, but not terrible. In August of 2026, Chiron will be sextile to the North Node, trine to the South Node, and I think that might be around the time of some eclipses. So that could be interesting, but it's quite supportive for healing. And then we're going to have some nice support for healing from December until August next year when Jupiter is trine Chiron. What's going to be hard? The following ones are harder. From 2028 until 2030, Chiron will be square to Pluto 5 times. That is going to be challenging. That is going to be bringing up really deep stuff and exposing some very raw, powerful fears and desires that are maybe born of fear. And at the beginning of that, June 2028, Saturn is conjunct Chiron in the sign of Taurus. Anyway, more about that later. It'll all be fine because it's just supposed to be, and there's always challenging transits that come along and we just work through them as best as we can and then they move on. All right, so Chiron in Aries. We've had Chiron in Aries since 2019, 2020. And so there's been healing work to do with identity, autonomy, courage, and the ability to take action. Here are some examples. Identity. There's been all this stuff with identity politics, like what rights do you have? What right do I have to be the gender that I choose to be, or to choose what culture I belong to? Many of us are from mixed cultures. Many of you are from mixed cultures. And which one do you belong to? Who are you? Where do you belong? The rise of nationalism. There's been some kind of wound with the sense of one's statehood or countryhood, and nationalism has been a response to that. Social media has continued to, and perhaps even more so, affected one's sense of personal identity. Who am I? And when you're always seeing what everyone is doing, scroll, scroll, oh, these people are doing this, doing that. Who am I? Okay. Autonomy, courage, and the ability to take action. The COVID lockdowns definitely limited people's ability to take action, and the ability of people to do entrepreneurial projects, to be able to thrive in small businesses and enterprises. That has been a big deal. We have not recovered from that. Protest movements around the world. And the abortion rights issue, of course, came up in the US. Oops, going ahead. Oops. Okay. Men's health and masculinity has been explored. I have a friend who works really hard in the men's health movement. He does men's groups, and he's really flourished in that over the last 7 years. And in my area, that's been really neat to see the men taking their power back, and that's good for all of us. It's good for us women as well. And people declaring their trauma. Okay, so this has definitely been also part of Neptune and Pisces over the last 14 years. But also Chiron in the sign of Aries has allowed us to be able to declare, I have PTSD, or I am autistic, or I am ADHD. This is me. I experienced this, and so I have a sensitivity here. We're much more ready to declare that, and to declare it publicly at times. So Chiron is moving into the sign of Taurus, and so we are going to have a different agenda with our healing work. There's going to be a different focus, and different problems coming up requiring us to work to heal ourselves in other ways. So this is looking at the collective. This is looking at overall, not so much your personal life. Money, land, resources, security. The housing affordability and the cost of living crisis are going to be definitely features. Issues to do with big food and big agriculture, because Taurus is about resources and food and supply chains. And, ideally, in my opinion, we'd be having much more community-based food growing systems and networking, going to markets, trading with each other, swapping with each other, a lot more people growing their own. But it's hard with the big food industry and the big agricultural industries. Indigenous land reparation, I hope we see that being worked through really positively. And wealth inequality, it is showing up so much already. I think that we're going to be looking at that a lot more. What could come? What could be the healing work with these? Some of my opinion is coming in here. More of us growing our own food. I hope. I would like to do that. I am not a gardener, but I find it really hard with the things with my timetable. If you're working a lot, you can't do everything. Regenerative organic agriculture. I would love to see more of that. Better sharing of resources, I hope, and some of this might come also with Pluto moving through the sign of Aquarius, which is a very egalitarian sign. And I hope that we see more power back from the big companies and more connection with the earth for each of us, and connection to our food and food sources, not them being all distant and far away and we don't even know where that food's come from. Okay, and then also there'll be healing work to do with our body image and physical health. Some of these Popular diet medications have been a really big deal, and I think we'll be looking at those. And also chronic illnesses have been a really big deal, and there's a growth, kind of a growth there, and maybe things like long COVID or other chronic things that have been going on. Sense of self-worth. Okay, so we have still going on, and AI has probably, it's just happening anyway. There's so much pressure on us to be productive all the time and to be achieving all the time. And I hope that by the end of this transit, we will be able to see every person just as worth it. So of course, we all need to contribute and work in our lives and give service. But do we have to be like so highly productive all the time to the point that we are not having downtime, not connecting with the earth? I hope that we can change that. All right, so what could come, and also my opinion will be coming on in here. I hope that Chiron and Taurus will help us focus more on healthy eating and healthy lifestyles so we don't need diet pills and that, and acceptance of all body types so that we don't think it's just one way to look beautiful, or that the healthy body is the beautiful body, and we see that, and that we know that we're enough even when we're not being productive in the material sense of the word. Let's hope all these sort of things can come to fruition with Chiron going through Taurus. Okay, so Chiron in your personal life, what's that about? So wherever Chiron is placed in your birth chart, this shows up where you have a core wound and also potentially a gift that you can work to heal yourself and through that help others with it. Okay. Notice where you feel unworthy or insecure or disconnected from your body and earth. This is the sort of theme that we'll be thinking about as Chiron moves through Taurus. Okay, so here are some remedies for Chiron going through Taurus. Grounding in nature and in your senses. So going outside, touching a tree, feeling the plants as you walk past, settling into connecting with the earth. Gardening could be a way, walking in the hills. Improving your finances, actually looking at your financial situation, being honest about it, and working towards improving a wealth mindset and good realism with your finances. Looking after your body, being healthy. Okay, and the lovely thing about Taurus is its appreciation of beauty. So beautify your spaces and beautify your body, preferably in natural ways. That's probably my bias coming through there. Okay, so here again, I'm going to say this again. To be human is to be vulnerable. Chiron helps us to understand and accept our wounded self, and from there we can understand and help to heal the wounds of others. So, sign by sign breakdown. Chiron in Taurus from the 19th or 20th of June, and then till September, and then it's going back into Aries, and then from April next year until 2033, which house does Taurus fall in for your sign? Okay, that area of life will be the focus of your healing journey over the next 7 years, our focus of your healing journey. There's always other things to heal, but Chiron is a very special healing place. So I recommend, first of all, that you listen to your rising sign. You can also listen to your sun sign, and especially if you don't know the time that you were born and you don't know what your ascendant or your rising sign is. Your sun sign can talk more about your career and your outward expression in the world. And you can also listen to your moon sign, because that can be more about your emotions and your feelings. I'm going to start with Taurus. If you are Taurus, sun, moon, or rising, but especially Taurus rising, on the 19th or 20th of June until September this year, And then again from April next year until 2033, Chiron is moving into your first house, Taurus. This is going to affect all of you, all of your life, starting perhaps with your body. And it might mean you experience illness or injury of some nature over the next 7 years or so, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Instead, it could mean something where you're really noticing like patterns of feelings of not belonging about yourself in the world, and this could be showing up in any area of your life, because from your first house you're looking out at all of your life, especially the angles. So this is like your home and your family of origin. Do you feel like you didn't belong? Your relationship with others, perhaps with a significant life partner or a business partner, and in your career. So any or all of those could play into this, but it's something about you and your identity, who you are in the world. And this will also be reflected back to you from the way that others see you and approach you. Okay, so maybe you realize something about that you overreact to slight messages of rejection that maybe are not really a big deal, but you react because there's some sort of insecurity in yourself, and you find this out over the next 7 years. And as there are various transits from the other planets, like the smaller planet, the faster planets like the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, as there are aspects with these over the next 7 years between them and Chiron, there'll be triggers. And each time you have a trigger over the next 7 years where you sort of like get this sense of rejection, all you can do is to try and see it for what it is. Hopefully talk to somebody who can reflect back to you and give you acknowledgement for what you're feeling, because these triggers, they might be really little things, but you feel them deeply and they set you off, you overreact. And yeah, try and look at what's underneath. Feel acknowledged, because it's something deep within inside you. It's not your fault that you feel that way, but it's obviously those overreactions can be inappropriate and hard to deal with. Every time that comes up, if you can do some healing work and remember that you are enough and it's okay to be feeling this, and as you look at it with compassion and do some healing work on it, connecting with your body, then you might be able to help others through this, especially by the end of the transit or once Chiron moves on later. So I'll read out what's on there. Your identity, your body, your appearance. Something could happen with your appearance. All of your life. Where do you feel ashamed of who you are or not fully yourself? These are things to look at. If illness or injury happens, I recommend that you do the treatments that you need to, like whether that's natural treatments or through the medical profession, whatever feels right for you. But see if you can also look at any underlying psychological patterns that could be contributing. So all the best for that, Taurus. You will be wiser and more able to help yourself and others by the end of this. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Gemini Rising, on the 19th or 20th of June, Chiron will move into the sign of Taurus, and it will be there until September, and then again from April right until 2033. This is your 12th house, Gemini. This is the house, the part of your life that's hidden from the world, or parts of your life that are more retreat. They are not obvious to the rest of your world. This could be like your spirituality, your unconscious self. It could be places of retreat or places that are not so part of the main aspects of your life, like not really your career. So like places like hospitals, care homes, even prisons, out of the way places. So your involvement with those and the healing aspects of some of those could come into play. The 12th house can also be about endings, and there could be parts of your life that come to an end, and the 12th house can also be about illness. So there could be deep, even unconscious patterns of behavior or beliefs that come out through this, and they'll be harder to grasp. They won't be so obvious. They'll be in a hidden way. So where you take time out to explore what these could be, if anything's coming up, take some time out to explore and maybe connect with your higher self if you can, if you've got some methods for doing that, for example, journaling, even journaling with your non-dominant hand. If you're right-handed, journaling with your left hand, or drawing and seeing what comes out so that you can connect with more of your unconscious self. So there could be buried patterns that come out, and these could even be ancestral patterns, all right? Or grief or wounds that need healing. Are there old griefs that you haven't had a chance to really work through and experience the pain of that grief so that you can get to the other side of it? Things that need to be released, okay? The 12th house can also be about addictions, and so something like that could show up with Chiron moving through Taurus. Whatever these are, try to connect with this unconscious self and your higher self as well for guidance. So, healing work, retreat, contemplation, and spiritual practice, and looking at where you do have patterns of behavior that are not healthy, for example, addictions. So all the best for that, Gemini, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and I wish you well for your healing work there. If you are Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Cancer Rising, Chiron is moving into the sign of Taurus on the 19th or 20th of June. It will be there until September, then it will go back into Aries, and then it will come into Taurus again in April next year and be there until 2033. This is a big year, big deal. It hasn't happened in nearly 50 years. The 11th house, Cancer, is about your networks and your friendship groups, okay? So organizations of people that you belong to, and it's also about long-term goals, your hopes and wishes for the future, and it's also about, it can be about your rewards from work. So there could be things that come up over the next 7 years when there's triggers to Chiron, activations of Chiron from the other planets, where you might feel like an outsider with your groups of people or networks that you want to feel really connected to and really like you belong and you're accepted there. You might not feel like you truly belong there. Okay, you also might experience disillusionment with long-term dreams or long-term goals, and you might need to look at those and question, and some inner wounds might come up, like maybe where there's been some kind of long-term goal that you're really looking to do, like maybe you want to write a book, and then you realize, I've got these blocks here because I don't think I can write well enough. You might even find out you're dyslexic or something like that. Something could happen that interrupts, or you realize there's a big challenge to overcome to achieve your goals, and it's a sense of insecurity that you're not enough. And by the way, just in case any of you are dyslexic and you are wondering, can you write a novel? Of course you can. It's just you have to find other ways to do the writing, or some of the writing. It might take longer. You might need to do voice to text and then correct it afterwards, but you can do it. Okay, so I don't want to make anyone feel overly challenged with that. Okay, so let me read out what I've written there for Cancer and the 11th house and Chiron moving through the sign of Taurus. Networks, friendships, hopes, wishes, and goals. Where do you feel like an outsider and that you don't truly belong? And where do you have disillusionment with long-term goals? The healing work harder to find your tribe, where you feel really accepted. Realize, okay, yeah, this is not quite me. This group that I'm in, that I know I can get on with them, but it's not feeling quite right. Cast your net more widely for your tribe and review your long-term goals. So all the best, Cancer, for this part of your healing journey, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Leo, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Leo Rising, on the 19th or 20th of June this year, very shortly, Chiron is going to move into the sign of Taurus for the first time in nearly 50 years. It will be there until September, then it moves back into Aries, and then it will come back into Taurus in April next year, and it will be there until 2033. This is affecting your 10th house of your career and your public reputation, Leo. So that's a big thing. That's an angular house. It's an important, prominent part of your life, of course, very prominent, because it's about where you are publicly known and what your reputation is in the public eye. Okay, so some healing work to do on your career. It might even be that you come to do some healing work in your career, and that could be through discovering some aspect of you that is vulnerable or not accepted in the world of your career or in public life, and you might have to look at that. And I'm thinking of a famous New Zealand comedian, Mike King. So he got famous as a comedy performer. He's so funny in the late 90s and 2000s. And then he suffered from depression, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who knows heaps about him. And then he got into mental health advocacy work, and he became such a leader because he had, so many people knew him from his comedy, and he became this wonderful advocate for mental health, and he's still really widely recognized for that today. So he turned a wound, a vulnerability that he had, actually a mental illness that he had, into healing work for others, and that helped him himself, and it helped so many other people. Excuse me. So that's the kind of thing that can happen with Chiron moving through your career house, but it doesn't mean it's easy. The other things that could happen is that there's some sense of not belonging in some career work that you're doing, and you might have to look at your career and question it, and maybe look at something that suits you better, that allows you to have sensitivities in whatever area that it is. Okay, so career, public life, reputation, legacy. Your 10th house is also about where you want to leave a legacy behind in the world. Are you doing a career that is lining you up to leave a legacy that you believe in and respect? Where do you fear being seen as inadequate or unworthy? Okay, another example I just used with the previous sign was if you had something like dyslexia and you realize that you're doing a career where that makes it really hard, and this could go one of two ways. You could actually come to the point where you accept that about yourself, you stop hiding it, and you share it with your employers and your workmates, and it's fine, and there's some adjustments made that make it easier for you, like maybe more voice to text technology can be used or something like that. The other way it can go is you might decide to adjust your career or change it so that it suits your way of working better. Okay, so healing work around this. Step into your own authority. Be in charge, be a in charge nurse or healer of your own wound, and vulnerability can be a strength. So I wish you all the best on that healing journey that will be activated from time to time when the other planets have transits that activate Chiron over that 7 years. All the best for that, Leo, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Virgo, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Virgo Rising, on the 19th or 20th of June, Chiron will move into the sign of Taurus for the first time in nearly 50 years. It will be there until September, and then again from April until 2033. Okay, this is affecting your 9th house of your beliefs, your belief systems, your spiritual practice, also travel, your philosophy of life, higher learning, okay? Your worldview. Okay, so over that time, there might be some challenges that come up to your worldview or your belief systems or your philosophy of life. And this will be triggered when there are planets transiting, like aspecting Chiron, especially in difficult ways, but also in easy ways. At any time there's an activation where you're starting to think, hang on, I've always believed this about life and about the way the world works, and I've been working towards promoting this spiritual belief or these ethical values in my life, and now I am questioning them. Allow the questions, allow yourself to look at what's going on and think, all right, this doesn't actually line up with is this good for people, whatever it is, okay? So allow yourself to question your philosophies and your belief systems and be skeptical if you need to, and be willing to explore other philosophies or belief systems, okay? To trust your wisdom with that. That's the healing work to do. But also with this, there could be some vulnerability that comes up. Perhaps you realize there's something about yourself that's not really accepted in the belief system or the philosophy that you've been following. And you might feel even that, oh, you don't quite belong there anymore. Okay. And so there's something where you need to withdraw from there. Or it would be helpful to withdraw from there and look at other options. Or maybe you stay with the same belief system, but there's some adjustment to be made. Perhaps, here's an example I'm just thinking of at random. I could give examples, but some of them get a little bit too personal from my own personal life, so I won't share those. But for example, you might be part of a church or something where it's really, really busy socially, like there's a lot of commitments, and it's really awesome because you're part of the tribe and you're contributing and giving service. But then you realize you've actually got an introverted side and you need a lot of time alone, and it's quite hard to be in that church group without being really, really busy with them and getting on board with everything that they're doing. So this could be some kind of vulnerability around your introversion, and the Chiron work would be to embrace that part of yourself and even to share it with others. Like you might, through that work, you might realize, oh, there's this person here on the edge of the crowd, and there's that person there. They need this introversion time, they need this time out as well. And you can talk to them and perhaps make a case to change some of the busyness of the church schedule with it. Random example. But anyway, I'll just repeat that healing work for you, Virgo. Explore new philosophies or belief systems, or look at ways to adjust the ones that you're in to suit you, and trust your own wisdom. So I wish you all the best with that healing work, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Libra Rising, Chiron is moving into the sign of Taurus, your 8th house, on the 19th or 20th of June, and it will be there until September. Then it briefly goes back into Aries until April next year, and then it will be back in Taurus until 2033. So you've got a healing journey with your 8th house of your shared resources with your partner, deep psychological layers, underlying traumas even, and your intimacy with a partner. Underneath, it's about power, and shared power is the 8th house. Okay, the 8th house can also be about transformation and death and rebirth. So where we are looking at with these psychological layers, how can we go down deep there into our inner desires, motivations, and fears, and transmute them, transform them. So this is really good Chiron work that will be even deeper for you than for others. Okay. All right. So here are some questions for you, Libra. Do you feel safe when you're in situations of deep intimacy where you are sharing vulnerability, where you are exposed? Do you feel safe? And if you don't, what is going on there? What do you need to change something about that relationship that you're in? Do you need to ask for more safety, for more respect, for less judgment? Or do you need to be less judgmental of yourself or of your partner? And do you need to change that relationship perhaps? What do you need to do? Like the shared intimacy space can teach us so much about ourselves, and there's opportunities to do that. Every so often, one of the other planets will be making aspects to Chiron, and that's when these kind of things will come up. All right. So, what is your trauma? That is something to be looking at. This sounds pretty heavy, man. But it might not show up in this real deep psychological way. It might instead be something to do with just shared resources with a partner, whether that is a marriage partner or a life partner, or with a business partner. What do you need to look at there? Are you asking for enough? Do you have some kind of poverty mindset when it comes to shared resources that makes you a little too generous? Or vice versa, that you're holding on too tightly to resources because you fear lack, and there's a risk of lack in your mindset, and perhaps you need to look at that. All right. So healing work. Allow deep trust, or work towards partnership that does allow deep trust and safety. Work on traumas. Work on the fear of loss and transmute that into empowerment where you can, and take charge of finances. So all the best with that healing journey, Libra, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Scorpio Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Scorpio Rising, Chiron is moving into Taurus, your 7th house, on the 19th or 20th of June. It will be there until September. Then it goes back into Aries, and then it's going to move into Taurus, your 7th house, from April next year right until 2033. This is your house of partnerships, marriage, one-to-one relationships, anybody that you spend time with on a one-to-one basis. This could be with clients or customers or close friendships. So how are relationship wounds going to play out over the next 7 years? Where most of us have some of those, Scorpio. So I think you'll be kind of okay with Chiron because you don't mind going down deep, and your emotion, you're connected with your emotions, even though they can be pretty deeply buried. So you might need to look at some of those when it comes to relationship over the next 7 years. And Chiron in this 7th house of relationship, that will get triggered when it makes connections to any planets or points in your natal chart, like when it goes over your descendant point, but also when other planets, the transiting planets, are triggering it or activating it. Okay, so what could show up? There could be some deep vulnerability when it comes to partnership that shows itself over the next 7 years. And this will provide opportunities to look at that and to explore where it comes from. Is there a sense of lack or not belonging or abandonment fears with relationship? Go into these, do journaling, do counseling, whatever it takes to try and explore them when they come up, whatever healing work feels right for you. So here's some suggestions for healing. Work on honesty in relationship and acceptance, and trying to achieve shared acceptance of vulnerability, and work to heal past wounds. And with the past wounds, this could be like where you're, one of the things that could show up is bringing old relationship baggage into new relationships, and or projecting onto a new partner or client or business partner or colleague what you've learned from past relationships, like troubles that you've had from past relationships. Try and see each relationship as fresh. But if stuff like that is coming up, it's an opportunity to look at it, explore it, talk to a counsellor, journal, do what work you can with this. So I wish you all the best for that healing journey, Scorpio. And please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Sagittarius Rising, Chiron is moving into Taurus, your 6th house, from the 19th or 20th of June until September this year. Then it will go back briefly into Aries, and then in April next year, it moves back into Taurus. It will be there, bringing you some healing work to do for the next 7 years until 2033. The 6th house can be about health indeed. Okay, so I don't know if some illness is going to show up here, something for you to work on your healthy lifestyles. Okay, the 6th house, Sagittarius, is about your health, what you do for your health, the food you eat, the healthy routines for your daily exercises. It's also about your work and your service in the world, and perhaps something will come up there about not belonging. Okay, so where does your body carry hidden pain? This is something that you can be looking at during this time. And how do old wounds affect your daily life? And I've got a couple of examples. I've got a friend who's had some healing work to do in their 6th house recently, and they realized that they have a pattern of belief that thinks that despite the fact that they present as a picture of absolute brimming health, they believe they're not healthy. So no matter how much people tell them that they're healthy, they're good, and they're eating healthily, they think that they're not. They think that they're weak and vulnerable and ready to get sick at any moment. There's a pattern of belief there, and it might require you to go back to old family patterns and messages that you received. Okay. Another way that this could show up, and there's a family I know of that there's a lot of hoarding goes on, like in terms of it's very hard to let go of the old things and the out of date food and clothing that's no longer needed, or the empty shampoo bottles with a little bit left. And at the same time, they buy more and more. And so the house gets fuller and fuller with stuff, with things. And this is a really good example of where there's some kind of old wound, perhaps a belief in lack or something, a fear of not having enough, maybe not enough food or belongings, that's affecting daily life very much. This could be the kind of thing that could show up here. All right, that's probably quite an extreme example, but there could be other things that come up, and over the next 7 years or so, there'll be triggers or activations of Chiron, like when the other transiting planets make an aspect to Chiron, or when Chiron triggers part of your chart. Okay, so the healing work to do, I'll read out from there. Explore the underlying beliefs or the issues behind what isn't working. Explore, and also explore self-belief in terms of your service. Spelling mistake there. Yes, because the 6th house is a very important house in terms of giving service to the world in practical ways. And there could be some questions that come up about how you give service, and maybe a vulnerability around that. So I wish you all the best with that healing journey, Sagittarius, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Capricorn Rising, Chiron is moving into Taurus on the 19th or 20th of June this year, this month, and that will be into your 5th house. It will be there until September, and then it will move back into Aries, and then it's going to move into Taurus again in April next year, and it will be there bringing you a healing journey to work on in your 5th house until 2033. The 5th house is a lovely house. It's about your creativity, your play, your joy, romance and dating, and children. It's a house of these things that come from our heart, whether that is our love relationships, like more on the romantic side rather than the committed relationship, the creative self-expression that we do, our playful joy, and children are very much a product of our heart and full of playful joy. Okay, so there's going to be some challenges to this house of the fun and the creativity and the joy. because Chiron is going to ask us to do some healing work in this area, and it might show up some areas where there's some kind of block to enjoying things. And Capricorn, you have a tendency to be a bit blocked in this way anyway, sometimes, because you can be so serious about life, which is wonderful. Like, we need your steadiness and your guiding good sense and your good management of things, but we want you to have joy as well. And maybe there are some blocks to your joy. Maybe you had a parent, for example. Here's an example. I've got a Capricorn friend who had parents who were very critical. So when that friend tries to have fun, the parents' voice are in their head telling them that they're doing things wrong, and when that friend is creating things, they're looking at it with this very self-critical eye, and it's hard to see. It's painful to see, actually. So I hope that this friend really does work on healing some of that and learning to see mistakes and errors as right and good and part of the journey, and to remember the joy of that, of pleasure and play and fun and just creating from the heart freely. Okay, so where is your joy or creative expression blocked? So there'll be activations of this Chiron in going through your fifth house from time to time, from the transiting other planets, or if Chiron passes over or makes an aspect to one of your own planets, but also right through this fifth house. But anytime something comes up, I recommend that you do some work on that. Try and look underneath at some underlying patterns that have come from the past and how you can approach them and work to heal them. Another way that this could play out is just that there are some actual, from the outer world, limitations to your joy or creativity. Perhaps you're working really hard over the next 7 years, or perhaps your children are going through some troubles, but you can be there to support them as much as possible and to help them with their own healing journeys. So, healing. Seek to understand the underlying wounds or beliefs and claim the right to play, the right to experience pleasure. This is a human right to experience pleasure, Capricorn. So work to take the power back there as you go through this healing journey. So I wish you all the best for that, and please like, comment, and subscribe if you like this video. If you are Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Aquarius Rising, on the 19th or 20th of June, Chiron is moving into the sign of Taurus for the first time in nearly 50 years. That is your fourth house. Chiron will be in Taurus until September, then it will go back briefly into Aries, and then in April next year it comes back into Taurus. It will be there in your fourth house until 2033. So the fourth house is your house of your home, your family of origin, your ancestral roots, but it can also be just where you live and the people you live with, even your housemates or properties that you own. So could be some troubles that come from the outer world to your home, like you might have trouble finding a home that's working for you, or there might be some illness in your home with a family member or somebody that you live with, or in your family of origin there could be illness. But there also can be, on the psychological level, some underlying historical trauma that needs to be looked at. So some kind of pattern that could have come from the past. Family patterns, they're so intergenerational, like alcoholism, on the positive side as well. But with Chiron, we're looking more at the troubles. So these family patterns that get handed down because we pick up the messages as children. The fourth house can also be about your emotional foundation and how you feel emotionally safe, and the sensitivities that come with that. All right. So what have I written there? What old family or ancestral wound is surfacing? All right. So there'll be triggers to Chiron going through this fourth house, and it is an angular house. So it's a really strong, important part of your chart. It's your foundation, actually, the fourth house. And Chiron moving through here will get activated when it makes an aspect, especially a conjunction or an opposition to one of your planets in your natal chart, but also when the other transiting planets make aspects to it. So from time to time, over that 7 years or so, things will come up, and then it's an opportunity to look at them, to do some healing work there, and then it'll go back down again and recede. But by the end of that 7 years, you might recognize that you have worked through some stuff that's actually really important and foundational. So the healing work that you can do, as well as looking at the patterns that are coming up and the family constellation stuff that's going up, like how you relate with each other and your place in the family and how your family sees you and what that means, and trying to escape some of the ways that could be trapped or problematic. You can work towards creating a home that nourishes you, that nourishes you emotionally, okay? And that might include setting up things with the people in your home that you're supportive of each other emotionally, asking people not to be so critical perhaps, or looking at the actual house, the place of living. Is this a home that makes you feel at ease and safe and good and have comfort in it? All right. Ancestral healing work and inner child work, because the inner child comes from that foundation of the family and the home, and there's always work to do there. So I wish you all the best on this healing journey, Aquarius, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Pisces sun, moon or rising, but especially Pisces rising, I am one of you. I'm Pisces rising and Pisces moon. Chiron is moving into Taurus. That's our third house on the 19th or 20th of June. It will be there until September. And then it goes back into Aries, our second house. And then it will come back into Taurus, and it's going to be there back into Taurus in April of 2027, and then it's going to be there until 2033 when it moves into Gemini. The third house, Pisces, is about our community and communication around our neighborhoods. It's also the house of siblings and relations, not so much your nuclear family or your actual family of origin, but the wider family, like cousins and aunties, uncles, and all of that. It's also a house of learning, small businesses, social media, and like I said, community connections and moving around the neighborhoods. Okay, it's also a house of our self-talk and our thinking. So lots going on with the very busy third house, okay? And there could be some blocks and challenges and vulnerabilities that show themselves up. Perhaps you have trouble connecting with your community, with your neighbors. Perhaps you are in a neighborhood that doesn't work for you, okay, and you need to look at that. It also could show up some sort of vulnerable mindset when it comes to business or small business or enterprise. Chiron moving through the third house could also bring up some challenges and some vulnerabilities or sensitivities that we have within ourselves about small business or social media communication. So who knows how that's going to go for me with doing my videos and my little calendar business that I'm working to develop. There might be something where I find I've got some kind of mindset that's not helping there, and I need to look at that. And there could be examples like that for you. The third house is also about learning and you in communication. So you might find in some ways that your voice is blocked or your thinking is blocked. And an example could be with learning, like you might, and I've used this example with other signs, you might find out that you're dyslexic. And I used to work with people who were dyslexic, and it was like a really big deal when they discovered this. And they might have thought that they were not very clever all of their lives, and then they really look at this issue that they've got with finding reading hard and spelling hard, and they find out that they're dyslexic, and it might all fall into place, but there is some healing work to do with that. Okay. So here are some healing recommendations. Work to speak your truth in a grounded way. That'll be the Taurus side. Trust your own knowing. And I've suggested throat chakra work because we can be very tight around our throat if we feel blocked and unsure of your own voice. So I wish you all the best on that healing journey, Pisces, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Aries, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Aries Rising, on the 19th or 20th of June, Chiron is moving into your second house. That's Taurus. It's your second house. It's going to be there until September, and then it goes back into your sign, Aries, and then it will be back in Taurus from April next year until 2033. Aries, you might be relieved that Chiron is moving out of your sign. There could have been illness or injury that's shown up over the last 7 years. And while whatever this is might not go away, the focus won't be on it as much. Instead, the focus will be more on your resources and your possessions and your money and your sense of self-worth. So a sense of security in terms of your material resources. Okay, I've had Chiron going through my second house because I'm Pisces, so Aries is my second house. I've had Chiron going through that second house for the last 7 years. I got made redundant very early on in that transit, and then my finances haven't really recovered since then. They've been up and down, not stable and reliable. But in that time, I have learned to value the time that I give to my work a lot more, and therefore to set things up so that when I do work, I am paid more, which can include things like asking for a higher hourly rate, or it can include things like not doing little jobs here and there, instead to keep blocks of time clear so that I can get a lot of work rather than just a little bit of work that only pays a small amount. Just one little example. You might really look and question some of your sense of self-worth over the next 7 years, and there could be some limits to your resources in other ways other than financially. It's a great opportunity to review what you value and how you show your value of things in terms of material resources and goods. Okay. Chiron will be triggered or activated every so often when it moves into some aspect with placement in your own natal chart, or when the other transiting planets make an aspect to Chiron, especially conjunctions or oppositions. Okay, so you're not going to be having these troubles all the time. They'll be coming up from time to time, and when things do come up, it's an opportunity to look at that sense of self-worth and how that is reflected in your material wealth and possessions. Okay, so what have I said about healing there? Said, believe in your own value and believe in what you offer the world, and this is especially in terms of income. Work on your money mindset and work on reviewing what makes you feel secure in terms of your resources. What do you need in terms of your resources? And what do you believe you deserve in terms of your resources? So all the best on that healing journey, Aries. And please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. Well, everyone, that's the end of the sign by sign breakdown. I have got my jacket on. It's chilly. I might light the fire. It's raining properly outside, as they said that it would. I think it will last a couple of days now. It's going to be interesting having Chiron going through Taurus, because it's going to be surprising if anyone really remembers much about that. So if you're older, you might remember the 1970s when Chiron last moved through Taurus. And interestingly, it was when Chiron was in the sign of Taurus that it was first discovered in 1977. So that's a pretty cool thing. So Chiron, the return of that discovery point and Chiron coming back to that point, that's going to be a moment that I'm sure many astrologers will want to take note of. I just want to say again, the wonderful thing about Chiron, We all have a wound. We are all vulnerable. To be human is to be vulnerable. And through working on that and going through a healing journey, we can gain wisdom and learn to help heal others in a way that is unique for every person. So, all the best for that. Have a good week, have a good couple of weeks, and bye for now.